Well, hi, everyone. It's Tuesday morning again here, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am Mara Salerno, the Gutsy Health Coach here inside the Gut Solution. And I'm thrilled to be here with all of you today. And we're going to talk about some pretty cool things. But for those of you who don't know me, I help people overcome their chronic digestive conditions so they can live freely without pain or dread of the toilet. Who does not want that? And I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. I practice not only functional medicine, but holistic and natural protocols to help people like you overcome their chronic digestive conditions naturally. And again, my name is Mara Salerno. And if you don't say my name right, you won't hurt my feelings. It's the story of my life. Hey, there's new names all the time, right? So today we're going to be talking about what the number one test is that you need really to achieve really good gut health. So we're going to be talking about what test that is. I'll be revealing that to you and also showing you the test, helping you to understand it, and why it's so valuable for helping to really uncover what are the underlying causes of your chronic digestive condition. So if you're here with me live today, please say hello. Let me know if you've been here inside the group, if you're having any wins or anything that you're learning that you didn't know before joining the group. I love to hear that. I love to hear your wins. Maybe there are some things that are going well for you. That you're getting maybe a bit better regarding your chronic digestive condition from maybe something you've learned here in the group. So please do share that in the comments. And whether you're watching live or on the replay, I love to hear. So please do let us know. Okay. Quickly as well, a little housekeeping note. When you go to the top of the group, there are some icons there, and one of them is named guides. If you click on that, you'll be able to find a whole slew of videos from here in the group, and they're categorized and nicely organized, so that might be easier place for you to find all the videos, because I know we can't always watch them, or you guys can't always watch them when they go live and you want to see the replays, and I do send them out, but I know you guys get busy, so it's a great place to go if you just kind of want to check them out. Sometimes you might want to binge watch and check them all out, so that's a good place to go. Okay. So the reason that optimal testing is so important, getting the right test, and this is the test that I use truly to start out with everyone. Granted, in my ideal scenario, I like to run several tests right off the bat. But if I could only choose one, this would be the test that I would choose, because this test allows us to no longer throw darts in the dark. It gets us to a good starting place. It's a very nice, big overview with lots of good chunky details in it. And it does really help to start pulling somebody like you out of a cycle of trial and error. So if you've been having tests run by your conventional doc and everything's coming out normal, there's a couple reasons for that. One is that they may be cherry picking the types of pathogens that they want to test. It's also the technology that's being used in order to identify the pathogens. They might be using a very old school form of microscopy testing, which is basically just using a microscope and looking at your stool in a petri dish, and they may not be letting it culture enough. But the type of testing I use tests very differently. So it is, in my opinion and in my experience, working with loads of clients and finding what I've been able to find for people, is that this test really does give us the best answers. There is another test that I do like using as well, but currently this is my favorite because it's doing a better job of detection than that other one. So I always try to keep my finger on the pulse so that I can get you guys the best results and the best information so that you can actually act on it and get rid of this stuff. Because nobody wants to be living with chronic digestive conditions or any health issues in general, because it just makes life harder, as if life isn't hard enough already, right? Can I get an agreement about that in the comments, you guys? Please let me know. Okay, so the test that I'm talking about is called the GI map test, and it is by a company called Diagnostic Solutions, and it's an excellent test. It really does literally map out what's going on inside of your gut, and for many different reasons, right? So it uses technology that allows us to identify the DNA of pathogens. So it's very accurate, and it actually is very quantitative, meaning that it actually shows us quantities of these specific pathogens that may be in your body, okay? So I'm going to show you the test here in a minute, so it'll probably give you more clarity on what I'm talking about. But this is really important because there is a ton of kind of DIY gut tests that are out there, like Viome and GI Effects, I think is maybe another one, but none of them really give you this kind of level of accuracy and quantitative levels of the different pathogens and bacterias. Now, just for some of you who don't know what pathogens are anything from bacterias, viruses, funguses. Mold would be in this category, though it's not on this test because it has to be identified differently. And it also shows us your good bacteria. This test also will show us how you're digesting, inflammation in your gut, immune system function, all of these elements. So, you know, it's very, very thorough versus these other tests that I was just referring to, which there are loads on the market, I feel like, that keep coming out, and they're supposed to make it so that you have more power in your hands for your health, which is great. So it's like direct consumer to business kind of purchase. But what happens is it doesn't actually quite tell us the levels of what you have in there. So it makes it very difficult to identify. Plus the technology is very different and not always very accurate. So they're great for maybe giving you a little bit of a general thing, but they're not very specific. And when you're struggling with a chronic digestive condition, you need specifics. You need to start trying to figure out what is going on, and if things aren't going on, for example, in this test, where do you need to move next? What do you need to do next so that you can resolve this and find out what's happening? Let's see here. Oh yeah, this should really be a routine test that should be done every year for everyone. That's what I do for myself and in my family. You know, you go to the doctor yearly, you get a blood test. This should be a yearly test for everyone else, and not, again, not a conventional stool test, but this particular GI map test I think is extremely valuable. Okay, so I would say this test is the most comprehensive, and it doesn't really leave much out. And the reason that I say that is, yes, I kind of shared with you what it covers, but it really screens for over 50 of these pathogens. I mean, when you have a stool test done with the doc, they don't necessarily cover that big range, because I hear from a lot of you, well, I've had stool tests done with the doctor and they say everything is normal and everything is fine. And, you know, then for some of you who end up working with me and you've had those tests done, we find out, no, everything is not fine. And so it's better to have more accurate information from the very beginning. And I'm sorry that happens to some of you. The conventional medical system is honestly very disappointing for many of you. Okay, so let me do this. I'm going to share my screen with you all so that you can see this test. And I'm going to try to get this into a full page screen. There we go. And I'm going to stop my video because that's pretty distracting. Okay. So this is the GI map test that you see, and it starts out with the first page being covering pathogens, though there's pathogens through this whole test. But it talks about bacterial pathogens, parasitic pathogens, and viral pathogens, right? And you can see here that it actually shows you the actual amounts that they're finding through your stool, okay? And by recognizing it through the DNA of the pathogen, okay? So it's pretty cool. We get to see these amounts, which is fantastic. Now, the second page, which is right here, this starts to show us about H. pylori or Helicobacter pylori. And it actually also shows us virulence factors. And what virulence factors are, it actually shows us the severity of the H. pylori. Now, I will say to some of you, if you've been tested for H. pylori with your doc, and you have, for example, acid reflux in particular, and it's not coming up, a lot of times this test will pick it up. Though I always say this, and if you haven't watched the videos, you will hear me say this all the time, no test is perfect, but there are definitely better tests for sure. So this test is definitely better, and it will definitely pick up on things that maybe haven't been picked up before. Now, when you see the next section, it says commensal and keystone bacterias. What that means is we're talking about your good bacteria in your gut, okay? These ones that are very influential. So we look in here and they will actually tell us when there's like non-detectable levels. So it's not just about like when something's flagged high, but it's also when something's flagged low or when it's not even detectable. And Akkermansia has made big headways in research in gut health in the last couple of years. And we know how vital this particular bacteria is to the health of the small intestine and of the tight junctions. If that does not make sense to you, please be sure to go into the guide section and look for the Gut Health 101 video, where I teach you anatomy and physiology of the gut and basically how it all works, what the small intestine is, what the tight junctions are, and that will all start to make some better sense for you. But this is all good bacteria in your gut. Now, the bacteriophilus section is literally just sharing with you what are these two major categories, Bacteroidetes and Firmicutes, tend to be the most dominant bacterial species that populate your gut, but there are other ones as well. These typically are the most dominant, and these ones are also influenced by also bad bacteria or dysbiotic bacteria, which we're going to get in a moment, but also good bacteria. So they're just kind of telling us like, what is the ratio going on in your gut with these pretty influential categories of bacteria? Now, opportunistic or overgrowth microbes, they're talking about opportunistic or bad bacteria, and they have them kind of categorized in different sections. But these are basically dysbiotic, bad bacteria that tend to overgrow and make a lot of issues. For those of you who are struggling with SIBO, for example, or don't even maybe know if you have SIBO, there's a couple of these bacteria that are very influential. And if they pop up, they can be very helpful in letting us know that, hey, if we haven't investigated SIBO yet, we may want to. And that is very helpful. Commensal overgrowth bacteria, same, right? Especially, this is a new marker on the test, the Desulfovibrio species. This one is actually telling us a bit of information about hydrogen sulfide SIBO, which for those of you who have been struggling with SIBO and probably done a lot of research about it, this has been very, very helpful in the GI map test. Because typically, if you had hydrogen sulfide SIBO, if you didn't light up in any of the other opportunistic bacterial categories, it could have gotten missed unless, you know, you worked with someone like me, which likes to do a blanket SIBO test off the bat. Okay, the next section is inflammatory and autoimmune related bacteria that, you know, could be influencing. So especially if you with autoimmune diseases, we will typically see some of these light up. Some of these may also give us clues about what may be going on with your immune system. That's pretty much the same in this section. Then here we have fungi and yeast categories. I will say if you have fungus or yeast popping up on this particular test, it means you have whopping amounts of it. Because it's pretty hard to detect fungus and yeast in a stool test. So if it pops up here, it's like, wow, yes, you've got a lot of it. It shows us some viral elements. And then on the fourth page, we've got some more parasites. So it literally goes into protozoas and worms. And then we have these really great intestinal health markers. So with steatocrit, it's literally showing with us like how much fat you have in your stool. The elastase marker shows us about your pancreatic insufficiency, and this really assists in digestion. So that's what this is really telling us about. B-glucuronidase, this actually tells us about estrogen metabolism, and this can go hand in hand with hormone tests that I like to run as well. It tells us how much estrogen is having an impact in your gut health. And this is the last phase of estrogen metabolism in the body, is where it's in the gut. And we can see it, you know, it actually gets pooped out. Occult blood is telling us how much blood you have in your stool, something that we should care about because it can give us some more information, right? Secretory IgA, we literally secrete about 80 to 90% of our immune system in our gut. So when we see secretory IgA, it's letting us know how your immune system is responding or not responding, and kind of the state of which things are going on in the gut. So I'll give you an example. If you were to have pathogens for some time, or a lot of inflammation in your gut, but especially pathogens for some time, and your body's fighting a good fight, we may see those secretory IgA levels pretty high. And it also notifies us that, hey, there's something going on in here. Even if we didn't see pathogens on this test, we would still know something is going on. Your body, your immune system is very on fire. Now, we could also see it extremely low, right? And when we see it extremely low, and then I see, you know, some of the things that I might see on this test, it tells me your body's been trying to fight this for a very long time, and it's no longer being able to mount a proper attack. Now, anti-gliadin is basically an antibody that's produced in response to gliadin, which is really found in wheat. So this is a wheat marker here. It lets me know what kind of response you're having to that. And then this eosinophil activation protein, this one is really secreted in response to any kind of, they even say allergic reaction, a skin condition, a parasitic or a fungal infection, an autoimmune disease, even cancers and bone marrow disorders, because this really helps play a role in fighting infections and increased inflammation in the body. So again, this kind of gives us some clues as to the state of the gut, what kind of fight is going on in there, how long it's been going on for, kind of thing, and how we can support the gut and support your body. Calprotectin is literally an inflammation marker in the intestines. And then zonulin is a protein that increases the permeability, meaning the separation of the tight junctions in the small intestine. So again, if that particular thing that I just said didn't make sense to you, please, again, click on the guide section at the top of the gut solution page. And there's a Gut Health 101 talk in there where I break down the anatomy of the gut, talk about the tight junctions and basically how it separates. So zonulin is one of those proteins that can make the tight junctions separate, and then food and pathogens can drop through into the bloodstream. Okay, so I am going to start my video back up and stop sharing and see if I have anybody here with questions live with me. Okay, do any of you, even on the replay, have any questions about that? It's a pretty cool test, right? Let me know what you think here in the comments. I'd love to hear. And, you know, what's really important too is to be educated. So when you get results from a test, you want to understand it. You want to see them. You don't want to just be told, oh, this is high or low, and then, you know, that's kind of it, right? You want to know what to do. So again, this is my number one top pick of tests. And I'm actually offering to all of you today, I've never done this. I mean, never. And so I'm offering to all of you today to be able to just run this test and have a review session of your results with me. And I'm offering that for $589 with the lab test and the review. And honestly, it's quite a deal. So if any of you are interested in that, you can just type in the comments GI map, and I will DM you and contact you, and we'll just get the process going and basically get you the test ordered. As soon as we receive the results, we'll make an appointment and we'll have a live Zoom session together. And I'll basically share with you what it is that I'm seeing and maybe correlating it with what you're experiencing and go from there. So if that interests any of you, again, please comment GI map in the comment section of this live video, and I will be more than happy to help you out. Let's see here. Again, if you have any questions, place them in the comments whether you're live or on the replay, and I will always do my best to answer them. And please engage here on the page. It's very valuable. I think we all learned something from it, and it allows me to also gauge where you all are at so that I can continue to give you valuable information, feedback, help, and inquiries. So I believe that's it for today. And I hope to see you all live here next week. If there's anything in particular you would like me to cover, please post it here in the group or here in this live, and I will do my best to serve you. All right, y'all, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Ciao.